You can feel it shifting again in Golden State, and not in a subtle way. For weeks, this team looked like it was just trying to survive the schedule, barely holding on to that play-in spot, running on fumes without its engine. But now, there's real noise coming out of that locker room, and it's all tied to one name, Stephen Curry. Draymond Green didn't dance around it. He made it clear. Steph is pushing hard to come back, and not just to play, but to make a real run. That changes everything. Because let's not pretend this has been anything close to normal basketball for the Warriors. Without Curry, the system hasn't just struggled, it's collapsed in stretches. The spacing disappears, the rhythm breaks down, and suddenly this offense doesn't look like the one that terrified the league for a decade. And it hasn't just been about Curry being out. The Jimmy Butler injury hit this team harder than people expected. He was brought in to take pressure off Steph, to give them that edge defensively and a second voice in big moments. Losing him wasn't just a rotation problem, it shifted the entire identity Kerr was trying to build this season. You could see it right away. The balance was gone. Behind the scenes, the urgency reached a point where the front office seriously explored a move for Kawhi Leonard at the deadline. That wasn't a rumor thrown around for clicks. That was real interest, real conversations, and a clear signal of how far ownership is willing to go. They looked at the tax bill, the restrictions, everything, and still tried to make a swing that big. That tells you one thing. They are not ready to let this era fade quietly. Right? Always with Curry, if you believe he can still lead the Warriors to another great season. On the floor, the numbers tell a story that matches what you see with your own eyes. Without Curry, defenses are loading up inside, daring anyone else to beat them consistently. The Warriors' offense has dropped into one of the least efficient stretches in the league during this run. The ball still moves, but it doesn't scare anyone the same way. That gravity Steph brings, it's not replaceable. And defensively, it's been a chain reaction. Missed shots, late clock attempts, turnovers. Those lead to transition the other way, and this team has been stuck chasing more than dictating. Kerr has tried smaller lineups to create spacing, but that comes at a cost. Rebounding suffers. Physical teams take advantage, and suddenly you're playing uphill every night. But here's where everything flips. Even at this stage of his career, Curry is still putting up over 27 a night this season. That hasn't changed. His game was never built on athleticism that fades overnight. It's timing, conditioning, and a release that still looks the same as it did years ago. When he's on the floor, defenders react differently. They have to. Comment, the dynasty is not over if you think the Warriors still have more to show. The moment he steps back in, the playbook opens again. The pick and roll with Draymond becomes a problem no defense wants to deal with. Help comes earlier, rotations get stretched, and suddenly guys like Kuminga and Wiggins aren't forcing shots. They're attacking space. That's the version of this team that still believes it can compete with anyone. Around the league, teams are watching this closely. Because right now, Golden State sitting in the play-in looks manageable. Golden State with a healthy Curry? That's a completely different conversation. Nobody wants to see that in a series, no matter the seeding. Inside Chase Center, the tension has been real. Fans know what time it is. This isn't 5 years ago. The margin is thin, and every game feels heavier. But Draymond's message landed exactly where it needed to. It gave that group something to hold on to, something real. Right, never count out the Warriors if you know this team always finds a way to compete. Now everything comes down to timing. How quickly Curry can ramp up, how the staff manages his minutes, and whether this team can stay in position long enough to make his return matter. Because if they do, if they just get in, that's when this whole story takes a turn no one outside the Bay is ready for. Because if they manage to hold that spot, even by the smallest margin, the entire pressure flips to whoever lines up against them. You're no longer facing a struggling 10th seed. You're dealing with a team that suddenly has its identity back, with a player who doesn't need rhythm to take over a game. That's what makes this situation so uncomfortable for the rest of the West. And internally, there's already an understanding that this won't be a slow return. The staff will monitor him, no doubt, but the intention is clear. Maximize impact without wasting time. You don't bring Steph back just to ease into games. You bring him back because every possession now carries weight, every quarter matters, every run can decide the season. There's also something else happening that doesn't show up on stat sheets. The younger guys are watching closely. They've been forced into bigger roles during this stretch, and while it hasn't always been pretty, it's given them reps they wouldn't normally get. The question is how quickly they adjust once the hierarchy resets. Because when Steph returns, everything tightens. Roles become clearer, expectations sharper. Right? Curry is still special if you believe he remains one of the most unique players in basketball. What makes this even more intriguing is how the veterans are responding. There's no sense of resignation in that locker room. If anything, there's a quiet edge to it now. They know what's being said outside. They hear the doubts, the conversations about age, about the window closing. And that tends to bring out a different kind of focus from players who have already been through the highest level of competition. At the front office level, nothing has cooled off either. Just because the Kawhi deal didn't materialize doesn't mean the mindset changed. If an opportunity shows up to strengthen this roster in the short term, they're going to look at it. This organization has made it clear. They are willing to carry the financial burden if it means giving Curry a real shot. And here's the part you don't want to miss, because this is where things could escalate fast. The upcoming stretch isn't just about wins and losses. It's about sending a message before Steph even steps back on the floor. If they can stay competitive, steal a few games they're not supposed to win, and keep that positioning intact, the momentum shift could be immediate. Comment, Warriors pride, if you have supported this team through every era. Now think about the reaction inside that arena the moment he checks back in. That energy alone changes how this team plays. It changes how opponents respond. You can't simulate that. You can't prepare for it fully. And teams that underestimate that emotional swing usually pay for it. So this is where you lock in, because what's about to unfold isn't just another late-season push. It's something that could define how this era is remembered. And if you want to stay ahead of every update, every behind-the-scenes move, every shift that could change the direction of this team overnight, this is the moment to make sure you're tapped in. Hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because the next update could drop at any moment. And when it does, it might completely reshape what you think is coming next for Golden State. Right? The Bay still believes, if you trust that Golden State can rise again. Because what's being set up here, it's bigger than most people realize. Warriors Nation, subscribe right now, because the next few weeks could bring some huge news for this franchise. There's a layer to this that hasn't been fully discussed yet, and it's the mental side of what this team is about to face. When a group has gone through this much instability in one season, injuries, missed opportunities, lineup changes, it either breaks them or sharpens them. And right now, signs point to a team that's starting to lock in at the exact moment it matters most. You can see it in how they're approaching possessions late in games. There's less hesitation, fewer wasted trips, more intention. That doesn't happen by accident. That comes from knowing the margin is gone. One bad stretch, and the season slips. One strong run, and suddenly everything is alive again. And around the league, people are starting to pay attention again. Not loudly, not publicly, but in scouting rooms, in coaching meetings, there's awareness building. Because everyone understands what a healthy Curry represents in a win-or-go-home setting. It's not about standings anymore. It's about volatility. And no team brings that kind of swing like Golden State when number 30 is involved. Right with Steph until the end. If you believe that as long as Curry is on the court, anything is possible. There's also a sense that Steve Kerr is holding back certain adjustments for the right moment. Not everything has been shown yet. Some rotations, some sets, even the way certain players are being used, it feels intentional, like pieces being saved for when Steph returns. So the impact isn't just emotional, it's tactical. Meanwhile, the pressure on opposing defenses is about to change overnight. Right now, they're comfortable. They can sit on actions, clog lanes, force tough shots. But once Curry steps back in, every coverage becomes a decision under stress. Trap too early, you give up numbers. Stay back, he pulls from deep. That tension spreads across the floor instantly. Comment, this story isn't finished yet. If you think the Warriors still have another chapter to write. And don't overlook the emotional charge inside that locker room. Veterans understand what this stretch represents. Not just another playoff chase, but potentially the last real window with this core leading the way. That awareness brings urgency, but it also brings clarity. There's no confusion about what needs to be done. If you've been following this team closely, you know moments like this tend to define legacies. Not the easy runs, wins, not the dominant seasons, but the ones where everything looks like it's slipping, and somehow they find a way to respond. So stay close to this, because what's about to unfold could shift fast. And when it does, you're going to want every detail as it happens. Subscribe now and keep notifications on, because the next update might not just be news, it could be the turning point everyone's been waiting for. Right? Experience wins games if you value what the veterans bring to this team, because once this next phase begins, there's no slowing it down. If you want to stay ahead of every Warriors update, rumor, and breaking story, hit subscribe now and join the community. And when that moment finally arrives, when number 30 steps back onto that floor, everything resets instantly. The doubts, the noise, the standings, they all take a back seat. What matters is execution, belief, and how far this group is willing to push when it counts the most. There's no guarantee of how this ends, but there is certainty about one thing. This team is not walking away quietly, not with Curry still playing at this level, not with a locker room that still carries that edge. Comment, champions never quit, if you believe the Warriors still have the heart of a champion. Now stay locked in, because every update from here could change the direction of this season. Subscribe to the channel right now and turn on notifications. This is where you'll catch every move, every return, and every twist before anyone else.